Ron from Bongripper here. Let's just talk about my rig here for a minute, since y'all have been asking questions about it. I am playing a Quilter V803, the base block here, and then my cabs are Tyrant 215s. They're custom designs. I have two of them. There's one here. There's one on the other side of the drum set that you can't see over there. But depending on the show and the venue, I will either bring one or both cabs. The cabs were kind of custom designed with my input with Sean over at Tyrant. And they are set up so that the top section is a sealed 15 with a full range bass driver. And then the bottom section is a ported cab with the shelf port there with a low frequency subwoofer. It's an Eminence 3015 LF. I think it's a Kappa 3015 LF. I can't recall off the top of my head. But then the top speaker sealed full range bass driver. Again, I think maybe it's a Delta Light 15. I don't recall. It's been a lot of years. But the idea behind them is that I get the punch of a sealed cab, kind of like an 810, and then that big rumble of a ported cab, or something like a folded 18 or an active subwoofer. And honestly, I wish y'all could be in the room and hear it, because that is what it sounds and feels like. You get that like punch in the chest, and then that big rumble. If you've ever gotten to stand on a stage with a big old subwoofer, it's a great feeling. And honestly, I can do that anytime I want, and it's great. Other than that, I like solid state amps. Solid state amps are awesome. They work really well for the low tunings, because you can get a really strong fundamental low end from them because they have a lot of headroom. So what I really like about the Quilter is it's got a switch that voices the preamp kind of like an Ampeg SVT, and essentially that's all I've ever been chasing, just an exponentially louder SVT, which is what I was doing with the Darkglass for a number of years. I'm using the Quilter now. It's just a bit smaller, a bit lighter, and I had an electrical issue with the Darkglass, and I guess they don't offer support on the V1 anymore. And that's a bummer, because this is an awesome amp. Honestly, these are my two favorite amps I've ever owned. And they are also the only two amps that ever made Dan physically uncomfortable, in that, like, I was loud and bassy enough that he had to stop playing drums. It happened once with the Darkglass here, and it happened once with the Quilter. But the common point was these Tyrant 215s. Yeah, they're just, it's a great rig. I don't have an SVT at the moment. I've run a number of different rigs over the years, but I've got cool friends. I'll try and get an SVT in here, and we can do a shootout between the Quilter and the real deal, so you guys can hear what I'm talking about. But essentially, tube amps just compress at the volumes I'm playing at. The low end, it compresses a bit too much. So it becomes mushy and not really clear. And obviously, it is dependent on the amp. What I like about the solid state amps are they're very consistent. Every time I turn it on, it's going to sound the same way. And also, I can fly with it. I can bring it anywhere in the world. And I know how it's going to sound. And as a musician who does travel a lot, that's important because venues are much better than they used to be, but they don't always care about a bass player. I started using the small amps because I just had gotten to too many shows or festivals or anything where I would be told that there would be a bass backline. It's like, oh, we have an 810 and an SVT for you. I'm like, awesome. And then I'd show up and it would not be that. The worst one was a fest that the two options were a 140 watt acoustic guitar amp, or I think it was an orange amp, but again, it was a guitar amp. And I think I ended up borrowing an amp from another band or something, but it was a wake-up call in that I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to start traveling with my own amp. So I've tried a whole bunch of the different Class D and micro amps and everything. These are my two favorites, the V1 Darkglass M900 and then the Quilter bass block V803. These are the two favorite amps I ever had. And yeah, I wish I could have this Tyrant with me everywhere, but when we fly places, I'll rent an 810, and part of that is that I just know what they sound like, and if you don't know what the condition of the cab is going to be, odds are an 810, most of the speakers are going to work, and if you were going to rent a 215 and one of the speakers blows, you're screwed. And frankly, the show has to go on. So as much as like I love gear and it all is important and, you know, is something I really, really enjoy, there is the Jodorowsky's Dune principle of you can either sit on your art for so long because you need it to be the way it is, or you can get it out into the world. And that's a bit of both. You know, I like playing music the way that I do, but at the end of the day, I do have backups and such in place. We have definitely had shows where the amp has failed and I have just been playing direct DI into the PA. And I'm not happy about it, but I don't want to throw a hissy fit and like cancel the show. You know, the show needs to go on. A lot of times the crowd, they know something's off, but it's still there, you know. You're still putting low end into the PA with the DI and all of that. The amp is important for your stage volume and to hear what's going on, but at the end of the day, once the show starts, man, you got to get to the end of it, and you want to make sure that you put on a good show and everyone has a great time. Yeah, I don't know. I got a little lost with this one, but that's cool. We're talking about amps. I'll throw on some fuzz pedals for you guys, because that's what everybody likes. So we're going to throw on the Damnation Audio Spike Box here with my Dunable NF Standard. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in.